Welcome back to Compendium Trivia, your one-stop shop for fascinating facts from the world of history and geography. Have you ever felt like you have just one friend in the whole world? Well, you are not alone. Some countries are exactly in that situation. Today, we're diving into the geography of nations that share a land border with only one other country. These states are sometimes true friends, more often frenemies, and occasionally awkward exes who need to pretend that they tolerate each other in front of the kids. Just one border might sound easy, but even that one neighbor can bring more drama than a telenovela finale. Before we begin, let's lay down the rules. First, we're talking about land borders only. So if two countries are separated by water, even a narrow channel, they don't count. Second, maritime borders? Sorry Nemo, but not this time. We'll save curious frontiers drawn on the waves for another episode. And one more caveat. We'll be looking mainly at sovereign states, but in some cases, we'll also explore overseas territories and their border situations, which can get really mad quickly. With all that in mind, and without further ado, let's get into it. We start with San Marino, an ancient microstate entirely surrounded by Italy. Founded in 301 CE, San Marino claims to be the oldest existing republic in the world. It has a unique system of dual heads of state, called Captains Regent, elected for 6-month terms. During World War II, San Marino reportedly by accident declared war on Britain, a claim later denied by its government. Perhaps Britain didn't get the memo, because later it bombed San Marino in 1944, believing it to be occupied by German forces. The bombing killed 63 civilians and added San Marino to the very long list of countries ever attacked by the UK. Yup, Britain apparently invaded 171 out of 193 countries. The UK later admitted the attack was an error based on faulty intelligence, and paid £80,000 in reparations, worth about £2.2 million today. San Marino might look unusual now, stuck inside Italy, but keep in mind that well into the 19th century, Italy was a patchwork of small independent states which looked quite similar. San Marino and the Vatican are the last survivors of that bygone era. Right, the Vatican. It is another country entirely surrounded by Italy, and uniquely, also by a single city, Rome. However, it also owns several properties outside its borders, like the Lateran Basilica in Rome, and Castel Gandolfo, the Pope's residence 25 kilometers away. Vatican City is the last remnant of the once vast papal states which stretched in central Italy. Interestingly, it is the only country that has no naturally born citizens. Citizenship is granted to those who serve the church and is revoked when their service ends. Curiously, Vatican issues its own euro coins, which are prized collectibles due to their rarity, just like San Marino. Next up, Lesotho, a mountain kingdom entirely surrounded by South Africa. Lesotho is the only country in the world whose territory lies entirely above the 1,000-meter elevation mark. Its lowest point, at 1,400 meters, is the highest lowest point of any country. Because of its altitude, Lesotho has a ski resort, snowfalls, and regular sub-zero temperatures. It's also one of the most ethnically homogeneous nations in the world, with 99.7% of the population belonging to the same tribe. A surprising fact considering how ethnically diverse Africa is. Another statistic about Lesotho is more grievous. It is the country where more than 1 in 4 citizens lives with HIV or AIDS. The second highest rate in the world after nearby Eswatini. Okay, let's move on to Group 2. Countries with one land neighbor, but with an access to the sea. Starting with Portugal. Today it borders only Spain, but once it had a vast colonial empire, stretching across almost all continents. It must give Portuguese nationalists a bit of a butthurt. But well, at least they have beautiful Madeira and Azores archipelagos left. Next up, Monaco. A luxurious microstate on the French Riviera, Monaco borders only France and is smaller than New York's Central Park. However, its territory has been steadily growing over time due to land reclamation efforts. It's famous for billionaires, yachts, and the Monte Carlo Grand Prix. A Formula One engine is the only noise the rich tolerate, apart from champagne corks popping. Alright, we move to Africa and the Gambia, the smallest country on the continent. It is like a river snake squeezed inside Senegal's jaws. The two countries even tried forming a union called Senegambia in the 1980s. But like many roommate arrangements, it didn't last long, dissolving after just 7 years. Next country is in Asia. Meet South Korea. Borders only North Korea via the heavily fortified buffer zone, one of the most militarized borders in the world. It must be difficult to have a rocket man Kim Jong-un, plus his nukes, for a neighbor. And you were complaining about the guy next door, mowing his lawn on Sunday morning. If the Koreas ever reunify, the new country would border China and Russia too, which would be a major geopolitical upgrade. We continue to Arab world, and Qatar. It borders only Saudi Arabia, and had a rocky relationship with it in recent years. Qatar has a native population minority. Only about 10 to 15% of the population are Qatari citizens. The rest, 85% or more, are foreign workers, mostly from Asian and other Arab countries. This makes Qatar one of the most demographically imbalanced countries in the world. Same goes for gender ratio. Roughly 3 men for every woman in the overall population. In younger age brackets, the ratio is closer to 4 or even 5 men per woman. There are so few women in Qatar that if you find one on Tinder, it might crash the app. Alright, let's get into the most passive-aggressive geography lesson ever. One island, two flags. In other words, let's talk about island countries that share land borders on the same island. We start with Haiti and Dominican Republic. These two countries split the island of Hispaniola. Although close neighbors, they have different languages, cultures, and economies. That contrast is visible even from satellite images, showing extreme deforestation on the Haiti side, caused by poverty, natural disasters, and poor management. Interestingly, both countries were united for 22 years when Haiti conquered the whole island under its rule, in the wake of expelling Spanish and French colonial powers. Now off to Oceania. The island of New Guinea is split between Indonesia and the country of Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea borders only Indonesia, but Indonesia borders other countries too. The Indonesian part of New Guinea is a contested territory as it is ethnically Papuan. and many locals would like to see the whole island united. Indonesia naturally opposes this idea and promotes migration of its citizens from other regions, which has already significantly altered the ethnic composition of Papua. Okay, now let's talk Brunei. It is located on the island of Borneo and surrounded by Malaysia, which splits it in two parts. Perhaps that geographic bipolarity explains why the country acted up and banned public Christmas celebrations in 2014. Somewhere out there, Amal Santa was forced into early retirement. We stay in Oceania to visit East Timor. It borders only Indonesia, a neighbor it gained independence from, after years of fighting. It's proving that even after a messy breakup, you can still be stuck living next door. We talked more about Brunei and East Timor in a previous Compendium Trivia episode. Check the link in the description if you missed it. Alright, back to Europe and its islands. Both Ireland and United Kingdom share just one land border, between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. If Northern Ireland ever reunites with Ireland, the UK would have 0 land borders left. That would be a very ironic twist of fate for a country that once ruled a quarter of the globe. Wait, maybe it actually will have one new border if Scotland declares independence. That would make it all the more butt-hurting for the Brexit enthusiasts. And now, on to every GeoGeek's favorite part. The curious and confusing cases of countries that border just one other. Let's talk a bit more about Great Britain and its odd bastard child of Gibraltar. Gibraltar borders Spain on its southern coast. However, it is a British overseas territory and not part of the UK proper. Therefore, we can't say that the UK borders Spain. Same goes for Cyprus, where UK controls military bases Akrotiri and Dhekelia. They border both the Republic of Cyprus and the unrecognized Northern Cyprus. Cyprus itself is in the same strange position. It officially has no land neighbors, but de facto borders British territories and Northern Cyprus. It may all sound a bit confusing, but no worries. We will have a dedicated episode about Cyprus, where we decipher this strange mishmash in closer detail. Let's return to Caribbean and the country of Cuba. It's an island nation with no land neighbors, right? Well, unless you count Guantanamo military base. It's been leased without expiration date to the United States since the early 20th century. Guantanamo Bay, famous for keeping terrorists on shaky legal grounds, is a place where international law goes on vacation, without telling anyone. It's definitely not a border most Cubans are happy about. That's probably why they decorated it with landmines. Okay, one last trip to Asia, to Bahrain and Singapore. Both are island nations with no land borders. However, they are connected by bridges to neighboring countries. Bahrain has the impressive 25 kilometers long causeway, connecting it to Saudi Arabia, while Singapore is linked to nearby Malaysia by 2 bridges. We will wrap the list with Canada. You probably thought that it has only one neighbor and that it's the United States, right? Wrong. Wait, Canada has more neighbors? Well, it actually does. In 2022, Canada and Denmark settled a dispute over Hans Island next to Greenland. It gave them a tiny shared land border on that icy rock in the Arctic. Curiously, Before the border deal with Canada, Denmark was also bordering only one country, Germany. Besides that, Denmark is connected to Sweden via the Øresund Bridge, but that's not a real border. And that's a wrap on our tour through the world's one-border nations. A wild mix of frenemies, edgy roommates, and lone wolves of the world map. A crazy bunch, proving that geopolitical tension doesn't need a crowd. In a world full of complicated borders, these countries keep it relatively simple. Although some of them still manage to turn their disputes into an international crisis. Yes, I am looking at you, Korea. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Compendium Trivia. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, so you don't miss the next geopolitical rabbit hole we dive into. Leave a comment telling us which of these countries you'd love to visit, and which one made you check a map. And if you enjoy similar topics, watch our episode about countries with geographically separated territories, linked in the description. We've got more historical and geographical mysteries on the way. Let us know which ones you'd like us to cover next.